And everyone, I'm Ollie Matthews. This is Societal Narcissism. No contribution with this video. You know, much like New York and Minneapolis and these other blue cities and states and California, I have zero pity. I have zero pity. Except for when children are involved, when bad things happen in these places. I have zero pity. Why? Because you voted for it. So this is a clip of Tulsi Gabbard, you know, another Democrat, ex-congressman from Hawaii, and I like her, even though, and I know she's got her problems. She was one of the Bernie bros, and you know she has a lot of messed up ideas, which she's more moderated herself over the past couple years on. You know, and regardless of, you know, they voted for it, you know, it is still a lesson. It is still a lesson of what's going on there, of what the oligarchy, what the powers that be will do to get your property, to drive you out, and to build their own little utopia for their friends. You know, it's crazy. It really is. It's crazy. And I only feel bad for the children. You know, there's still what? Maybe 2,000 missing children, 1,500 missing children, 2,300, 2,200 missing people, whole families missing, entire neighborhoods missing. You know, I didn't want to get too deep into it because, you know, there's a lot of different theories floating around. Like, you know, how is it only the long-term residence houses got torched and burned, and yet all the rich people's houses on the coast, nothing was touched. Nothing was touched. And then there's this thing like where the houses that had roofs painted blue, for some reason, miraculously survived and weren't touched. I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying it's it, but it's weird. It's weird. What I think happened is, you know, another consequence of liberal policies. They regulated water, didn't release water. The green agenda, which is deadly. Okay, the green agenda, much like in California and other places where there's wooded areas, didn't cure the wooded areas, didn't remove the dead brush, let everything get overgrown, you know, because climate change. And they had these high winds. They had this storm that caused 70 to 100 mile an hour winds. Power lines went down and lit the whole place up. And then the winds carried the fires all over the place and torched the whole city, as cops didn't let anybody leave. The schools sent all the children home. Nobody's there. They got trapped. A lot of them got killed in their own homes, separated from their parents. So what I'm about to play, this is a lesson. This is a lesson to everybody. So whether it's happening, and the scary thing is stuff like this will happen in red areas. It's already happening in Florida, where they're trying to drive out longtime Florida residents from their home by driving up rents, driving up the cost of living. You know, you can't get insurance. It's a mess. So let's watch this.
They were completely overwhelmed and unprepared for this unprecedented wildfire. It's the worst wildfire our country has seen in over 100 years.
When is a blue area ever prepared? When do they ever handle anything well? Never. But again, they voted for this. This is a state that voted for Joe Biden 2-1, voted for Hillary Clinton 2-1. I believe their entire federal Congress is Democrat. They have 2 Democrat senators, one more evil than the other, and the other one might be one of the dumbest politicians that ever walked, Mazie Hirono. Dumb and evil, that woman.
But the problem is, once you get to that point, like, oh shit, this is really, really, really bad. Not only in the hundreds of lives lost in that fire, but the surrounding communities of people who
hundreds of lives right now that you know of, but there's thousands missing.
Who survived but who went without power, who went without any cell phone signal, any ability to communicate with people, who didn't have, all of the gas stations in their neighborhood, they were empty. There was no way to get gas. They couldn't get food. They couldn't get clean water. The water supply systems were contaminated. I mean, there was disaster upon disaster that came in the aftermath of the fire that went unaddressed. And
the scariest thing, the scariest thing here that really rings out is that the new police chief of Maui is the same police chief who was in Las Vegas during the Aldine shooting, the Stephen Paddock, where the worst mass shooting in American history, which we still have no answers for. No answers. What was his motivation? How did it happen? No answers. This guy picks up and now goes to Maui. And 3 months later, this happens. And still, no answers, no access. Weird.
My biggest, I went there a few days after the fire happened. Maui was my district for 8 years when I served in Congress, and had a lot of friends there, and went out to those affected communities. And what I heard over and over again was no one from the county, the state, or the federal government has shown their face in our community. It is neighbors helping neighbors, families helping families, people on the island of Molokai, which they don't have much on their island. Everything comes in by barge. They're loading up whatever they have in their general store on these little boats and running them over to West Maui on a private boat dock, because that was the only place that they wouldn't be blocked from bringing food and water and medical supplies.
Now, why are people being blocked? I keep hearing that about people being blocked. Is it because they haven't gotten an accurate death count? Is it because they have to make an assessment of how much was damaged? And it's
because they're trying to hide the evidence of their incompetence. They fired the guy who wouldn't release the water. The guy was like, water is sacred, that whole thing. They fired him, and now he can't be subpoenaed and called to testify to the Hawaii councils, to the local Hawaii governments, to explain himself, because he's no longer an employee.
So massive, it's so vast that they haven't been able to do that yet. Like, why is it being blocked?
Things are being opened up now. I think people are able to get in and out of the West Maui area. I understand that the historic town of Lahaina is still being blocked off, and they're working on reopening it as we speak. But in the couple of weeks after the fire, I don't have a good answer why they continue to block the roads, again, to those surrounding communities, why they blocked people like Kai Lenny and others from using their jet skis and boats to try to bring supplies in through the water.
Because they're trying to break these people, and they're trying to hide their own malfeasance and incompetence. Bottom line. But again, they voted for all these people. They voted for all of them. So I have very hard time having sympathy for these people.
You could say, well, we were trying to secure the area, but you're blocking friends and family from coming in and bringing necessary supplies, literally doing supply runs. So, I jumped on a plane that was doing supply runs from Kahului, the main airport on Maui, out to this tiny little airport that serves that community. And that was, for a lot of days, the only way that they could get supplies brought in. I don't know. I really don't know. But again, this goes back to, why aren't you communicating to people what's going on? And
because liberals, Democrats, communists, Marxists, they don't want to face accountability. Like I said, go watch the miniseries Chernobyl, and it'll tell you everything that's going on right now.
And why you're doing what you're doing. All the result of their decisions left people and families and communities stranded in their most dire time of need. And the mayor didn't go out and show his face until almost 2 weeks after the fire happened.
That's insane.
It's crazy.
And then says he wants to take the land for the state. That's his first
Now,
word.
this is
I think
one of
the
the
governor
reasons. Yeah,
says
this is
that.
one
The
of the reasons.
governor.
Right, the governor's trying to take the land. You already got BlackRock coming in, trying to buy up this land from these people, drive them out, so Oprah and The Rock and the rest of them can bring in more of their rich friends, and they could do whatever they want to do, the degenerates that they are, on some of the most prime real estate in the country. They don't want these indigenous Hawaiians having this valuable land. Why should they have it? Oh, just because they've lived there their whole lives?
I wanted to talk about this. Like, how is that possible? That these people could lose their home and then lose their land? Like, how is that possible?
It is the number one concern of people there in Lahaina, is that a few days after this happened.
And you know they're doing this because you haven't heard them come out and say, well, no, we're not trying. We're going to make sure everybody's homes get rebuilt. We're not going to. No, they want this. And when they want something, they're going to freaking do it.
I haven't spoken to the governor, but he said in a press conference, he said, we're talking to the attorney general. He said, I'm talking to my attorney general to explore options for the state to take over that land and use it to build workforce housing or build a memorial to the for the people who lost their lives.
A memorial, like more woke liberal shit, means nothing. What are you taking over other people's land for? Land that they own. I mean, we're not talking about the 1600s here where, it's Indians living in teepees that are running around, scalping each other. No. These are American citizens. They've been American citizens for a very, very, very long time. Okay? Very long time. They own the property for generations sometimes here. And now the state's going to come and take your land? You get what you vote for. You get what you vote for. Because if they could do it there, they can do it anywhere with any type of natural disaster, any type of disaster that goes down.
But the fears that the people in Lahaina have, some of whom, like Archie Kalepa, famous surfer, community leader, Native Hawaiian leaders, family has lived in Lahaina for 9 generations, now being told, well, the state, the governor is looking at taking that land, taking ownership of that land, that it is unconscionable. And there's, we'll for those who've been displaced, we'll see about doing a land swap and we'll send you to the Big Island to live in Puna.
Jesus.
It's taking away the sovereignty of people's right.
Right. They want to put them on a lesser island because they want Maui for themselves because, Maui is the spot to go.
It's to have a say over their home, in many cases, their generational lands, it is such an abuse of power. And so this is, and I'm glad that there are leaders in the community who are leaning into this fight to make sure that they are fighting this fight before anybody tries to do that, rather than looking in the rearview mirror and saying, gosh, I wish we had done something.
But just imagine a governor going on television after a massive tragedy where we don't even know the number of people dead yet. You have this massive area that's been burnt to the ground.
Yeah.
And then he starts talking about taking it over for the state. That's an insane position to take.
It is.
Post-tragedy.
It's corrupt, but they don't care. Who's going to stop them? Who's going to stop them?
When people are suffering at their most, they can't even believe it happened.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's saying, we're going to take it for the state and make a memorial? How about give the fucking people their homes back?
Exactly. But they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. And again, they voted for it, most of them.
Exactly.
One of the things we went over yesterday, which is a crazy number, we were looking at the amount of money that was accidentally sent to Ukraine. Like they oversent $6 billion. And then I said, well, how much would it cost to rebuild every house in the Maui fire? And it's $5 billion. $5 billion something.
Yeah.
Like that's just like accidental money.
No, we got bombed. You can't build a house with a bomb. Boeing and Raytheon don't build houses, so there's no money to be made there. Politicians make no money off this. The corrupt oligarchy makes no money off this. They want that land.
But there's no talk of doing that. There's no talk of doing that. Isn't that interesting?
The way, and it's happened 2 or 3 times now where the Pentagon has said, "Oh, we miscalculated how much money we had set aside for Ukraine, so we have an extra $4 billion to send now."
And this is why, for me, the top issue is Ukraine is a non-starter. Anybody who's looking to give 1 penny to Ukraine go fuck yourself. This is why we're done with DeSantis. I said it was the one thing that would make me like never again with him was paying money over to you, keeping that war going for no damn reason. As a Gen Xer whose entire prime years have been wasted on foreign wars while the country crumbles no more. There's only three candidates: Trump, Ramaswamy, and Kennedy. They're the only three that are like, no more of this shit. Shit, even Cornel West wants to continue to fund Ukraine. I mean, what a hypocrite there.
That we didn't know we had. And this has happened a few times. Secretary of State Tony Blinken went to Kiev yesterday promising, hey, we're going to give you another $1 billion now. And this is the thing. When I was out there in Maui, person after person was like, Tulsi, tell me what would happen if we started to call ourselves Ukraine. You think they would give us some money then to take care of our families, to fix our roofs? That have been torn up by the hurricane winds that came through, to make sure we have clean water to drink. You think they might pay attention to us then? And then FEMA comes out. The FEMA director comes out and does this press conference. I think it was at the White House, and she says, "Well," someone said, "Well, what are you doing?"
Remember how much criticism FEMA got? See, FEMA only gets criticized when there's a Republican in the White House. Remember Katrina, and then with Trump, and Trump ran FEMA well, and no matter what Trump did, when there was a natural disaster, it still wasn't good enough. When there's a Democrat in charge, and shit goes real bad, they want nothing to do with it. Because remember, Katrina at the time was run by, New Orleans was run by Democrats, and at the time Louisiana had a Democrat governor. And they were blaming Bush, and I'm no fan of George Bush. They were blaming Bush for getting people killed, yet they didn't evacuate any. They knew the storm was coming. They didn't evacuate anybody. The mayor refused to use, I think it was something like 100 and something school buses just sitting in a parking lot that they didn't use to evacuate the residents. No, they didn't want to talk about that. They wanted to talk about what FEMA did after the fact, not about the prevention that could have been done to save lives beforehand, which always lays at the feet of Democrats every time. This is no different.
For Maui, she's like, oh, we're giving a one-time $700 payment to everybody who's been impacted by the wildfire. A one-time $700 payment.
It's insane.
Hawaii has the highest cost of living in the entire country. The entire country. And how freaking insulting is it to have the lead disaster response administrator from the Biden administration stand there and proudly say, hey, we're giving everybody one $700 payment.
It's meant to mock you. And we need another $10 billion for Ukraine, by the way. And then they attach that money to Ukraine funding. So if you are against the Ukraine war, you vote against that. You vote against giving the people in Maui any type of relief. I mean, it's all a fucking political game. If it can happen, but the problem is, if it can happen there, it will happen in red states. I promise you.
It's insane. And it's insane especially because of how much money we're sending to Ukraine.
Yeah.
Because there can be no doubt that these things are financially motivated now.
Of course they are. Of course they are. It's all financially motivated. But again, I feel horrendously for the children because they're victims. What choice do they have at this point? They didn't have any choice. They have no say that their parents are fucking idiots and keep voting for monsters, for one monster after the next. And eventually it comes and it catches up to them. The lesson here is, if you live in a red area, you got to make sure that this doesn't come to you, because if they can do it in Maui, they will do it in your state. They will do it in your home. Because if you aren't a part of the big club, it's a big club, and you ain't in it. And if you ain't in the club, this will be coming to you in your area eventually. They'll figure out there's a million different ways that they'll do it. But it's all about it's all about making money for them. And there's no making money in rebuilding the resident's home and letting them stay there. So, sad situation, but be aware that this stuff will come to you too. So, let me know what you think in the comment section below. And thank you to everybody who's watching. Leave any opinions in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, something you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with either the Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, and email links in the description box below. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. Also, be sure to subscribe to both my channels on Rumble. Follow me on Twitter and Telegram as well. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been Societal Narcissism. Take care, everyone.